with the Developmental Services Human Resource Strategy. Actually, I'm on secondment to the strategy. I'm with Community Living Toronto. And I'm very excited today to be introducing our session. And today we have representatives from various colleges and the program of the Community Integration through Cooperative Education. As you all know it as CICE. So the format for today is the representatives are going to talk about accommodations and modifications that they've learned within their programs. So we're going to give each of our representatives about 5 to 7 minutes of time to talk about their specific programs. And then we have some questions that we've developed. And then there's going to be lots of time for questions at the end from you guys. So we'll hold on to those questions for the end. So in terms of who we have here today, sorry, I'm going to just flip over. So I'd like to welcome Renee Ferguson from Georgian College, Rebecca Dwar from Georgian College as well, Deanna Atkin from Mohawk College, and Perm from Humber College. Okay, so today we're going to start with Renee, and I'm going to give you the mic.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I am the program coordinator for the Community Integration through Cooperative Education program at Georgian College. We currently have 3 campus programs. Barrie, our largest campus, with approximately 40 students. Aurelia, with about 13 students. And Owen Sound, which opened this past fall with a small cohort of 7 students. The students in our program are taking a variety of employability-related courses. They study introductory computer skills, which prepare them for integration in the workforce and equip them with the skills they need in their core and integrated classes at the college level. So they take these courses together, along with several employability seminars designed to equip them with those essential employability skills that everyone needs to be successful in the workplace. As much as possible, we try to ensure that our classes within the core programming are experiential in nature, very practical and applied. Students are, for instance, in group work, whether it's made explicit or not, developing teamwork skills and communication skills. We practice handshaking, eye contact, all of the things that many people do every day in order to build professional relationships in the workplace. And of course, we also have our field placement courses, which Becky will talk about in a few minutes. Our students then select program areas of study. And these are areas that are of interest to them, and they select these areas on the basis of their future directions, oftentimes goals for careers that they have. And we really work with them on developing what we call SMART goals, realistic opportunities for themselves with regard to employment in the future. And we try the very best that we can to help our students understand that an end goal is not the end, and that development is ongoing throughout your job experience, and that all work, entry-level work included, is opportunity for learning and growth as a person, as an employee, and that they are going to gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills from our program. Of course, the program's core mandate is integration and inclusion. So we work with faculty cross-college, coordinators cross-college, to ensure that our students are having equitable access, not equal access, equitable access, so that they are able to benefit from the curriculum, integrate fully into those classrooms, and have, of course, the college student experience, which so many people enjoy and have fond memories of when they're our age. So we work really hard to integrate our students, ensure they feel like they are participating. They are treated like all other college students. There are expectations placed on them. They have goals. The tasks that we are providing them with and that they're shaping for themselves are meaningful, they're challenging, they are achievable. College is not easy, the workplace is not easy, so nothing we do is easy either. As a coordinator, I work with the faculty across the college in all 3 locations, and really just try to articulate relationships for our students so that they can benefit from their college experience. I support the staff team with modifications and accommodations for individualized student needs. We really are all about the individual. And then of course I work with the team to provide support whenever it is needed. This year, we have a cohort of students that we're finding are very, very connected to each other socially. We are noticing increased challenges with regard to mental health and well-being, in addition to a lot of the learning needs that we're typically seeing within our program. Georgian's program is an open diagnosis program, and when I say that, actually it's really not even diagnosis-centric. We accept all learners with many different learning needs, as long as they are eligible through our admissions process and can benefit from the support we provide. So we're not doing one-on-one, and Becky will share with you what that looks like in the workplace, but our students are learning autonomy and independence and self-advocacy. We are there to support, but they are not given support all day long, every hour of the day. So they need to be sufficiently independent in order to access our programming. I think that's enough about my role and the Georgian College program. From my perspective, I'll pass the mic now to Becky Dewar.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Dewar. So I'm the Field Placement Officer at Georgian College. So my job essentially is designing the field placements for the students. And I see it more as kind of relationship building. So I feel like I try and work to build relationships with the students as well as employers and find those connections so that there's a good fit in both those areas so that the students can increase their success and help with their networking and hopefully job placement after graduation. So I've been doing the job for the past 7 years, and we really focus on understanding strengths and weaknesses. So we try and encourage the student to become their own expert, to get to really know themselves. The field placement preparation class that our students do in the first year is really focused on that. We do a variety of different activities, but the main goal is for them to understand where their strengths lie and then how to overcome some of those weaknesses. So whether they learn to ask for, maybe they need a little bit more time to do a task, maybe they require a task list to remember to stay focused. Some of our students might just need to be shown how to do a specific task. So we worked with the student to hopefully get them to be able to advocate for themselves. Also encouraging our students to know that failure is an opportunity for growth. That's when Renee was talking about we try not to make anything too easy. We like our students to, a struggle is not a bad thing. So it helps them overcome things. And oftentimes I've seen in the workplace kind of, what do we call it? Like a secondary reverse discrimination, right? Students will go to a placement and instantly they get judged and they're being looked at like, oh, they can't do that. So an employer just gives them easy peasy tasks that are boring and it doesn't challenge them at all. So my goal really is to make sure I go into the field placement and I say, we can start them with this, but let's keep working our way up to other tasks. And that's where I'm also looking for the student and the employer to kind of do their own job development. It can be tricky to pigeonhole people into one particular job and one job description. So having the employer and the student say, I've noticed that nobody's doing this and I think I'd be really good at that. Can I do this? And using those. So that's kind of my goal as the field placement officer. So I look forward to answering more focused questions that you might have and going from there.
My name is Deanne Akins. I am the job developer at the CICI program at Mohawk College. Mohawk's in its 6th year with the program, and I think I could say we're the largest program with 80 students. Our focus is really about the college experience the first year, getting the students integrated into the college experience, academic experience classes which they would be interested in, focusing on transitioning in, self-advocacy, math skills, professional behaviors. So as staff, we really try to model professional behavior, so that they will model that when they go into their workplace. Moving into the 2nd year, we focus on job readiness, getting ready for the job, a lot of intensive workshops. For example, I just would like to reflect on what John was speaking about. When you wake up in the morning, what are you looking for? And And that's what we do with our workshops. So for example, in an interview workshop, I will have all the students sit together. I will interview a student, ask a question, stop them, ask their peers what they would say about that student. So when I bring them to the interview, I can see them reflecting back to that experience and using those words that their peers use on them. Pardon me. So my job, there's really two important things to my job, is building relationships with community partners and building relationships with students so that I can make the best match for the employer and for the students, so that the program can grow into the community where I can have community members coming to me asking for students, not necessarily me always approaching employers. So that's really our goal at Mohawk, is to create a program that is really accessible to the community, as well as highlighting the individuals that are coming through the program.
Good morning. My name is Burke Duell, and I am a field placement facilitator at Humber College. We have 3 campuses at Humber. We've got it in North Campus, Etobicoke, Lakeshore, as well as Warrenville. The CICE program is run primarily out of the North Campus. So Humber College has a history of about 50 years, and the CICE program has been running for approximately just over 30 years. The program is really geared to, the placement portion of it is really geared to having students create and develop experiences. So once they complete placements, there's an opportunity to take those experiences and the skills that they've acquired, move it into opportunities for the future. My role, just as it's already been defined by Becky and Deanna, is to assist students to locate placements. These students will start off on campus and get the opportunity to get a variety of experiences through various departments, such as working at the fitness center, doing their placements at the Center for Teaching and Learning, admissions, and then by the 3rd or 4th semester, they move into off campus, and it might be at a variety of locations, from working at daycare, child care center, to working in animal services. So again, my role is to provide that support to students. We see students being placed from Mississauga to Brampton, Richmond Hill to Markham. And realistically, we're looking at, within 2 years that students are a part of the program, that students are provided a foundation to move into the future to pursue their own personal and professional goals.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a few questions to get the ball rolling, and then again, I'm going to open it up to you guys. So, first of all, can you identify the similarities of modifying college-level curriculum and a job task in a comparable field? And I'm sorry, we only have one mic, so we're sharing today.
Well, in the college, in the first year in the program, you can really, the first semester, you really see the struggles with the students and you know, asking questions like, why wasn't I asked to do that math problem in high school? Why wasn't I asked to write that paragraph? So the first semester, we really focus on modifying the curriculum so that they can get to the level that they are possible, they're able to get to. So in terms of modifying that, you're really creating a confidence in an individual, then they can move to the next level. And comparing that into the workplace, when I have individuals that I bring into the workplace and there is a task that the employee says, oh, I won't have them do that because it might be too hard. Right away, I'm like, no, they're totally able to do that. Like, what is the task? Then I break the task down for the individual. Maybe they need a list, step-by-step list, or maybe they just need to have that repeated over and over again. Or maybe I have to send in, a job coach just for the first shift so that they understand that. But that really creates like confidence and helps the individual understand that they are learning and they are capable of doing that. And once they understand that, then they will just, moving forward, they will move into other tasks with that confidence. And, the employer always sees that. And it creates a relationship between the employer and the student, where the employer becomes more confident and gives that student more responsibility. So responsibility is a huge thing for our students. When you set the bar, they generally always meet that. They always get there. Expectations are always really good to place on students, because then they see, okay, these people are expecting me to, live up to these expectations, and then generally, once they meet them, they're always asking for more.
There seems to be like a lot of learned helplessness for the students that we're seeing. So they're coming from high school and there's this, they've never failed anything before. And so they just know that if they say, oh, this is really challenging, I can't do this, all of a sudden, they didn't have to do it before. So we spend a lot of that first semester working with our students and really telling them, let's try this. I know it's going to take some time, but even if we just do using adaptive technology, our students, each one of the Georgian College students has an hour a week of technology skills, and they can get extra stuff with that as well if they want to learn Read and Write Gold or Dragon or C-Pens or anything like that. So we try and get our students to start using adaptive technology to help with some weaknesses there. We encourage all of our students to use calendars and everything, whether it be on their phone or scheduling. We have 4-month calendars that our students can refer to, chunking, multimodal presentation type things, so making sure that when we're teaching our students, we're using verbal, written, and also demonstrations. And if students start to learn, hey, it really worked when you showed me how to do that, then they're going into the workplace and doing the same sort of thing, right? So if they're able to notice that that's where they learn, they take that into the workplace and they just say, okay, I understand you want me to do this task, but can you just show me once, twice? And if an employer knows that that's what they're getting into, like if I can say to them, just so you know, Johnny, he can do it really well. It might take him, that first 2 weeks, it might take him a little bit. You might not notice him catching on, but once you show him a few times and he's been given the opportunity to go through it, they usually catch on really quickly, right? But it's once again focusing on the individual. To do an overarching idea of what works for everyone is unrealistic. Everyone's such an individual, and I think I tell all of the students, every single person has strengths and weaknesses, and the sooner you get to, if you want to say that every person has a disability, you can, because we all have weaknesses. It's just overcoming those weaknesses and focusing on our strengths, right?
I'll just add a specific example of a young lady in our program about 4 years ago now. She came from high school and really struggled with self-confidence. Her esteem was in the toilet. She had not had opportunities to access courses in high school that she was interested in. She had been placed in a classroom environment that posed no challenge to her whatsoever. So she came with a lot of, learned helplessness, low self-confidence, extremely poor self-efficacy, and a desire, though, to learn and grow. And over the course of the 2 years of the program, the adaptive technology became a tool that allowed her to achieve beyond what she thought was possible for her. Read Write Gold became her tool, and Read Write Gold is a software that allows folks to write more easily. It corrects, it reads aloud to them, text so that they can access materials, and it's a fairly well designed software that allows them to access, online sources, PDF documents, Word documents, you name it. And this young lady was interested in office administration. And over the course of the 2 years, she went from being very meek to the point where you could almost not hear her when she was speaking at her loudest volume. And it wasn't that she wasn't capable of speaking louder. I believe that she was meek because she was never heard. And at the end of the 2 years, she had a voice, she had these tools, she had gained confidence, she had taken her first history course. She'd always wanted to study history and had never had the opportunity. And then she interviewed for a job position with a local community agency that was open and willing to work with her. And at her interview, she stated that she needed Read Write Gold, and if she had Read Write Gold software, she could do the job. And they purchased it, and then she got a full-time job as an admin assistant in this agency. That is why these programs exist. To help people see what they are capable of, to make up for potentially past wrongs or lack of access based out of ignorance, misunderstanding, or just not knowing how to support someone and how to make someone achieve. And that was a truly rewarding experience, and she's just one of many.
That's great. It's great to hear about the technology that's available out there. So our next question is, what barriers do you address with employers when introducing potential new employees, and then how do you overcome them?
I would say one of the first barriers for our students is the interview. I think it's a nerve-wracking thing for most people. Sometimes our students present, and even when I call an employer and I say, hi, I'm Rebecca Dewar, I'm calling from the Community Integration through Cooperative Education Program, they've already stopped listening, and they're going, okay, what do you want? And I'm looking for an 8-hour-a-week unpaid field placement for a student. All of our students have varying levels of disabilities. The number one, right when you hear disability, you either have somebody being intrigued, or they're going, I don't have the time to commit to that right now. And it's one of those, if I could get my student in to meet them, I always go with the student, especially for their first interview, and I sit there, and it's almost just like mediating a relationship, right? You're going, both parties are nervous because the employer's not sure what to expect, and the student's nervous going, oh, am I gonna get this or not? And it's just teaching employers and students that this is just another way to network, this is another way to build a relationship, and you're just talking about what you're capable of, right? But I think that's one of the number one barriers for most of our students is that interview. They show up, and whether they have a speech impediment or they don't dress the part, maybe there's some poverty and other things happening there. So I find overcoming that barrier is really just me showing up and mediating that relationship with the employer to kind of make it both parties feel at ease.
I just want to quickly add, I would agree with that. I think the barrier isn't quite with the students. I think it's with the employers. There are fantastic employers. We've had wonderful, amazing opportunities for our students where at the end of placements, at times, students would be offered employment. Although the mandate for Humber is not to have students find employment, it is to have the experience. But going back to the biggest barrier, it is overcoming employer perceptions. And so when working with employers, and sometimes it's just that person at the front door, it's that gatekeeper. You can go back to the same organization 2 years later, it may be a different gatekeeper, and all of a sudden it opens up a door. So I think it's also just the ability to keep on and trying on behalf of that student as well.
Yeah, sorry. And I was going to say that it's person first again, right? You're not meeting John with autism. You're just meeting John, right? So breaking that stigma of the disability, sometimes if somebody's had a negative experience with someone who had autism, instantly they're going right back to that. So that's why I do enjoy that Georgian doesn't require our students to disclose what their disability is, because we're just meeting John and Anne and them, and we're meeting that person, right? Because what autism looks like for one person, and another is completely different. So I don't understand why we're not just focusing just on that individual. So I think if you can go into a meeting with an employer stating, well, you're going to meet Sam, he's really hardworking, kind, capable young man, he would do well with a task list, and maybe chunking down what you want him to do so that he can take it in smaller portions, and then that kind of makes everyone feel at ease, right?
I'll just add to that. When I approach employers, I generally go into a business, because I feel like it's hard for them to say no to me when I'm there in person. Then I usually get their email, and I send them a nice long email with the information as well as a little video of our program. But it's either the employer is not interested because they don't think our individuals can manage a work placement, or it's more of a charity type of model where they're like, okay, yeah, we don't have to interview, but I right away say no, we need to have this experience just like any other job. The student and I will come in for the interview. I will coach the student prior to the interview and have them get ready for that. And then in the interview, I generally try to, step back and let them deal the interview with each other because they're going to be working together on their own after I leave the situation. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I really believe that it's really important to treat all these placements just like it would be for a job because they will remember these experiences when they graduate and they will be going out to the workplace and they will be going to interviews. We have students, alumni come back all the time and before an interview just to ask us, can we just review some questions or can we go over that or we'll just, brief about what you learned while you were in the program. But we always have a connection with our graduates when they continue on into the workplace because it's really important for them to still have access to people who believe in them and will support them through job interviews and placements.
It seems to me that if you're talking about students in general, like the way the program is run, any student would benefit by helping us. I think it's just better for the video. Okay, so students in general can use the kind of support that you're giving your students. Everyone can. One of the very first things that you, Ruth, right? Renee, sorry, that you said was that you teach them to have and then you sort of smiled after it. I thought that was probably the most important thing because that's what I'm finding is young people new to the workforce. That's the hard part for them is to make eye contact and to have the confidence in general to be able to speak about themselves. And that's all it is just a conversation. Tell us about yourself. So I just wanted to ask about if there's any challenges in particular that these students have. The only thing that I've heard that's really different is the enabling technology, you called it? Yeah, adaptive technology. So I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more about that. Go right into the next question. Okay. Great question.
Yeah, so we teach a lot of explicit skills that are perceived by society to be implicit. So there's a hidden curriculum in our society around getting a job, keeping a job, and being successful. So this program is making that explicit. It's not always easy for our students to learn how to make eye contact. So if we have a student on the spectrum, they may not be able to make eye contact. So then how can we work with that individual to ensure that they know that the employer is, that they are paying attention to the employer. So we modify what we need to modify based on the individual. And you're right, truly, education that is individualized and specific to people's strengths and skills and needs is, I believe, universally transformative and positive, but that's not how the system works, right? In our education system, we teach in classes with rows and everyone is instructed in the same way. The CICI programs, I do believe, are transformative educational programs, and I've written about this in articles, and I'm always pushing for this model to kind of be universally employed. And there is a universal design movement, right, to try and help students in college and university and high school and elementary classrooms learn how they learn through teachers teaching, through multimodal instruction like Becky mentioned. So really, the only difference with the CIC program, in my opinion, is that we are individually focusing on the needs of our learners. They have the support of learning facilitators who are not at this table to access their curriculum, their classes, and they receive tutoring support afterward that's tailored to them and their learning needs. They do receive modifications, and that's also a difference. So we change curriculum, and no other college program can do that across the board. Because when you change curriculum, you're changing the credit, and you're changing what they graduate with. So this is an access program that we are allowed to modify, we're allowed to accommodate and give a little bit more, but that certainly isn't the case across the board. But because we're allowed to do that, I do believe the students receive more individualized attention, for sure.
Okay, we're gonna go right into audience part. This is fabulous. Actually, there was one, and then you're next.
Hi, so just coming back to the eye contact piece for kids with any degree of, or young people with any degree of autism, I certainly find it helpful if somebody says to me, I have a hard time with making eye contact with somebody, so it's not that I'm not listening, and then kind of go from there. Have you found that kind of approach can help? Because at least you know why somebody may be struggling.
Part of our third placement comes second year, so that's when we are discussing with our students about disclosing to an employer and when they feel safe doing so, and also bringing like accommodation request letters. So our students actually work on developing their own accommodation that is based on themselves. So it's like a cover letter, but kind of based upon their strengths and weaknesses. So, and it clearly outlines what a student would need in order to overcome certain barriers that might be for that specific job. And I'm trying to right now come up with a whole bunch of examples, which of course I'm running a blank, but it's so individualized that, and it's same with the specific job. And that's where I think as employers, it's important to, gone are the days that you can just say, oh, I want somebody to do this job, and there's a list of criteria and that's all that person's going to do. There needs to be specific job development, like you're finding the holes in your organization that, you know, over time you might be relying on the same job description that you've used for the last 20 years, and that as times change, you need to keep changing those job descriptions. And there might be something that, you know, I think of a student in particular, he's a delightful young man, extremely hardworking, punctual, presents very well, but socially very anxious. So he gets highly anxious whenever something's too busy, but his mathematical skills are remarkable. His organization skills are remarkable. So we developed a job for him specifically doing coin counting for our in our library. He was placed in the library and he was having a really hard time doing a lot of the shelving, and he found when it got busy, he was getting overwhelmed. So they just said, you know what, we have all these coins, like, would he be willing to do that? We offered, like, and I don't answer for my students, I don't know, maybe he won't like that. We asked him and he said, yeah, I would love that. So he spends a lot of time in kind of a more private space, and he's helping out significantly, and it's taken something off somebody else's task list that was more of a burden, and given him, and he feels such great ownership. He goes and he collects his coins every time, he brings it down to the office, and he rolls it, and with perfect accuracy, right? Like there's no errors in the stuff he's doing. So it's just kind of thinking outside the box and doing actual job development, right? So.
Just to speak more to the job development, I often, if I have an individual who's really interested in a certain field that I'm really struggling to find a placement in, I will really utilize the college as much as I can. For example, I had a student this semester who was really interested in robotics. Yeah, we'll try and find a robotics company out there that's going to take on the student. So that isn't already educated in that field. So we have a new lab in the college that is, the 3D printing and in that. So that's one thing right now that I'm working on to have that student. So maybe it's less of a job experience and more of a learning experience that they can take that into the workplace, into something different. That's something they can put on their resume now and say, well, I've actually done this in college. The marketing department, I have a student who's really interested in marketing. He is has already been offered a job after graduation through like a family-run business for their marketing. So I had him work with the marketing department in the college that he's been working on flyers and different things that the college puts out. So really utilizing the environments around us and the community around us is super important for our students. And also to speak to disclosure and identifying. In our program, we have all the paperwork for the diagnosis and all that in their files, but we never look at it because that's not important to us. what's really important to us is the individual and how individual is going to grow in the program and learn how to deal with a diverse amount of people, because everybody's different. And when you go into the community, everybody's going to deal with you differently. Nobody has information on how to deal with somebody who has autism in the general public. So we have to teach our students how to be able to handle the average person when it comes to their own disability. So if I have a student who I see that may struggle a little bit in the workplace, and maybe it's a good idea that they do talk to the employer about what types of accommodations they may need, then that would be individually. I would talk to the student. We would meet, ask them what is it you think you'll need to make your workplace successful, and then together we would approach the employer and just let the employer know. And generally, it always works out. Employers are really great. All the employers I've had have been really great, except for maybe one. We just took him right off our list for the entire college. But generally, everybody's really receptive in our area, and our students really get some great experiences.
I'm just going to add a little bit more. In terms of Humber, we are fortunate in being able to support students while they're on placement initially until they gain that independence, and then so it's an opportunity to sort of work on areas that the students really want to develop. So maybe more interaction with, let's say, customers or what have you. And I think that's it, actually. I just wanted to
So I think you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but for those individuals who are interested in moving from their placement opportunities to competitive employment, I was wondering how you would compare the experience in terms of employer expectations, productivity targets from a placement opportunity, and in terms of that, how that would compare to a competitive employment opportunity when they move out of the placement and move forward into the workplace. So employer expectation, how they meet those expectations.
But the student makes it.
For the employer expectations, so employer expectations of placement, are they the same as what happened in competitive employment, or would they be different, or how would that be, how would they differ?
So I think our students match up fairly well, keeping in mind that our students are going into entry-level type work, right? Like we're not having students going in to be CEOs of companies or anything like that. But for the most part, once our students have overcome that interview and they are given the opportunity to, disclose what accommodations they might need, I would say, 90% of the time, the expectations have been met. And if they're not, that's usually, whether it's, I usually say the only disability we can't accommodate for is a bad attitude. And the most issues we've been running into is with students who have bad attitudes, and I think that's common across not even just the CICI program, just across in general, right? Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, so I don't know. I think, does that answer your question at all?
So yeah.
Kind of.
So the expectation would be the same in the placement as in the workplace.
Yeah, I've had employers, were on the fence. Okay, yeah, let's try it out. And then my student gets there. My students always on time. My students always do the task. They're top of the line. They become one of the #1 employees within the workplace. And then when I hear the feedback from individual or from the employers, I say, well, would you hire them? And they say, I'm like, well, this is your opportunity because they're about to finish placement and they're not. So that's generally, 80% of that's the feedback I get, about 80% of my employers is that, these students are amazing and they always want to continue on. And so I think that really brings a different feeling to the whole workplace, because if an individual who doesn't have a disability doesn't show up on time and they see our individuals outworking them, they're like, I gotta step this up. So, you know, you really see like a difference and the employers are always like, this was the best thing I've ever done for my business. So that just, you know, that's why I love my job. So yeah, did that answer the question? Okay.
I would say the main struggle, like we have, is getting students, like they've met the requirements and the expectations. It's budget constraints, right? Because our students do an 8-hour-a-week unpaid placement, so they've proven themselves, and the employer's like, no, this is fantastic, we appreciate it. They've done super well. Like I have a student working at a pet store in Aurelia, and they said the only issue is like there's no openings right now. So he's helped us out. There's clearly work for him to do. We've kept him busy, but we just don't have the finances. That's the major barrier our students are running into. They're meeting the expectations, but if it doesn't turn into a job afterwards, it's solely budget. I don't have specific numbers for us, but
It's difficult to measure the statistics in CIC because not everyone who comes to CIC does so to get full-time employment or even part-time employment post-CICE. It's the skill development, the social piece, but we have many students who do go on to employment. We also have found in the last 4 years an increasing number of the CIC Georgian students going on to further post-secondary. So we have folks who have now graduated from 1 or 2 diploma programs at the college post-CICE. So it's become more of a pathway. So they're differentiating themselves almost into different streams, if you will. So college experience and social, skill development, jobs and getting a job post college, and then more education and then jobs from that. So the statistics are kind of all over the map, but the college does measure that on an annual basis, but I don't have any hard and fast numbers.
oh, sorry. And then
Hi, I think you were starting to speak to this, but just to clarify, because you spoke about some placements being like in daycare, working with children. So if an individual wants to do that as a career, usually it requires an ECE degree. So would someone go through your program and then enter an ECE program?
A lot of our population wants to work with children or be an EA. They want to have that give that experience back to other children. But I have a few number of ECE daycare type of employers that I use often, and once my students have spent their placements doing that, then we have a program at Mohawk College. It's an apprenticeship to ECE, which is more along the lines of where our students probably would manage a lot better than in the ECE program, because they can do it at their own pace, they can get more help with it. At Mohawk, it's really, every program is very accessible. There's a lot of programming that you can get that will support you through your time there. So yeah, a lot of my students will go into that. But that's something we're actually talking about right now is what's going to happen after CIC? Can we actually create another program that will help focus on a specific industry? And ECE is something that we are looking at, but again, it's really difficult because there are a lot of regulations in daycares, and so being left alone with children is like something that is really, hard to put a student into.
So we had that, and they actually developed an ECE assistant role for the student afterwards. So it was a student that unfortunately she couldn't pass the first aid, CPR regulations and that sort of thing. So what happens is she's in a room, like a classroom with the students, but there's always another staff member with her. And I don't know about the pay and everything like that, but a job was developed for her based on that criteria. And then we also have had students who go on to work, in a home daycare setting as kind of an assistant type role as well.
Just to add to that as well, taking a look at childcare, some of the opportunities that have come up, it's not directly at daycare, so it may be childcare centers, drop-in centers. So I have a student right now who's currently at a like just a drop-in center, but it's quite active. There's a lot of activity happening with kids coming in for different programs. And there has been talk about the possibility of employment once placement is completed. So there's those types of opportunities as well. So maybe just doing more, sort of thinking outside of the box when it comes in to not just necessarily just nature. So.
Thanks. I'm assuming from what you said that nobody has sort of 5-year data or 3-year data or something to suggest the streams that people go in or how many actually go on to a full-time employment situation. Is that a correct interpretation? It's a study waiting to happen. But the other piece I'm really interested in is say if that were done, and what your experience has been in supporting the anxiety that I've heard so many young people say develops when they have the full expectations of a regular job then afterwards. And I've heard feedback to people who have run employment programs saying, you put me in a job and then you know, after a few months, if at all, drop me in terms of giving me the support for my ongoing anxiety, which can escalate. Do you have specific links with I guess you have your in-college support, but also with community mental health providers who could do some of that follow-up without going on a 2-year wait list, in which case they may have lost the job in that time.
So we were just chatting. That is definitely a barrier. So the work that we're doing that's preparatory, right? Learning about disclosure, self-advocacy, learning to find your voice and to share with an employer, I have anxiety. It looks like this. This is what can be done to help me in a workplace context. The work we do before they leave, I think, helps somewhat to mediate that. But you're right, social service supports, there are wait lists, there's DSO, you know, there's a number of considerations, and our students might go out and might find it too overwhelming. But if we can, as the college providers, support them in learning that self-awareness piece, building that confidence to speak with the employer, giving them positive field placement experiences where they can learn to try it out in a safer environment with support, it helps a little bit.
There's integration facilitators as well that will assist and support students on the academic level, but there's a lot of conversations that can happen between the student and their integration facilitator. So that's often a starting point for that kind of support. And from there, you've got, again, as you've mentioned, the college and the counseling services that are available. And with that network and that support, it often is a building block for students to possibly look at other avenues for getting their support outside of the college as well. So.
We really try to make as many connections with our students through classroom. We bring in different community support agencies to really, you know, help our students understand what's out there in your community and how you can access it and that you should be accessing it. It's kind of funny, if, we've had some students come back who had gotten a job and say, well, they were treating me like this. I told them that I didn't like that. So it's really nice to see that they did learn those self-advocacy skills, because that's really important that they can speak on their behalf and let the employer know that, no, this is how it needs to be for me to work. But yeah, that's really a huge thing for our program, is to, you know, access those employment agencies that are out there in the community. We even try to encourage them to get summer jobs for our September intake when they have the summer off. Like, maybe you should try a summer job. Like, it'll get you ready and it'll help you prepare. And then they already have that connection with that agency, so when they graduate, they can just continue on with them.
Our students also have college coping skills, so they can sign up for a session, and it's not counseling by any means, but they're taught different coping mechanisms, whether it's meditation, the breathing cycle, those sort of things, with the hopes that once they practice the tools, they'll be able to go off and get a job afterwards, right? And that's why we also don't modify to the point of being easy. The point is, like, it's not a bad thing to see students struggling a bit. It's not a bad thing to see a little bit of anxiety in a safe environment, right? So that they can learn, okay, I'm feeling really anxious, but if I do this, this, and this, which works for me, I'll be able to calm down, and hopefully they can employ that in the workplace, right? It helps with their problem solving later on, which is key.
There was just one, two. Taking a time check, sorry for coming.
Good morning or afternoon, whichever time you're looking at. Let's see, well, early on in your presentation, each one of you had mentioned concerns regarding learned helplessness, inadequate academic preparation, and poor socialization in the elementary school, high school system, and perhaps maybe even going back to the elementary system. What work have you done to actually address this with the various school systems in your jurisdiction?
Yeah, so this is always a goal, right, is to help our partners in education. And I am by no means generalizing and laying a blanket and saying the system is completely broken and no student has a positive experience. That is not the case. But we do find that many of our students don't. So we've articulated relationships with all of our schools in our surrounding region, both separate and public school boards. And we go out into the community. That's done a lot by myself. Sometimes members of the team, like Becky and the learning facilitators, will go out when we're in off periods between semesters. And we meet with classroom teachers, special education resource teachers. We meet with guidance counselors. We've met with school administrators. And this year we provided an innovative day in the life of a CICI student interactive workshop for several of, well, the entire Simcoe County District School Board, all of the special education folks within those departments were invited to attend a full day workshop. So the school board has been really good at devoting PD and PA day time, I guess it's called, to our college and to our program to learn more about what it is we're offering. And so we're building bridges. We're increasing, I think, consistency in terms of the approach. Of course, we are not, expectations, obviously. So we're very clear on what our program does, right? We're not making it easy for students. We have expectations. We want this to be meaningful, challenging, and achievable. And here's how you can help us in the secondary system. Here's what you can do to prepare your student to be a fit for the CICE program. Here's what it looks like. Here are the skills you can be working on now. So we oftentimes find now with transition planning, and this goes for community agencies as well, that CICE is listed in a transition plan for a student, and that's a really great thing to see. So they're coming in younger and younger and learning more and more about the program with their families and supports, and the schools are coming in and we're going out to the schools and out to the agencies.
I think at this point in our communities, we're starting to eliminate the idea that this is high school and this is the end. And I think that right now in Hamilton, we had the Hamilton board approach the college and ask if we could create a committee to develop, better curriculum in high school for students, because it is the worst thing to see a student come in to college at the college level knowing that they're totally capable of so much more, and that they just didn't get that learning experience prior. So the school boards within Hamilton, as soon as the CIC program opened up, everybody jumped on ship because there are so many individuals within our community who really could access that. So the school board, along with the dean and associate dean and the VP of academics, are all together meeting on a regular basis to just see what we can do to change the high school experience for our students so that they can actually grow a little bit more to their full potential.
Actually, I'm going to take I was going to actually mention with Humber, I actually sit on the advisory board at Humber, and there's representatives from Sorry, there's an advisory board for the CICI program in Humber, and there are representatives from the school boards and from the various schools in the area too, so that's another connection there.
I'm just going to add, parents also have a big part of it as well. And so what I've noticed in the Peel region, there was just recently a parent expo. And I believe that they were looking at students between ages of between grade 7s and 8s. So it is sort of taking a look at reaching students at a younger age and getting them, getting information about the different programs that are out there to be able to support them once they finish high school.
Okay, so we have time for 2 more questions.
So how do you recruit employers, and do you have like a large variety of employers that participate in this program?
So oftentimes I'll meet with the student, and if a student has a particular interest, that's where I'll go and I kind of start just knocking on doors. What I find works best is, once again, showing up in person, bringing our information, discussing things. When you call, it's hard to get people's attention, but when you're there in person, they often take the time to listen. So I do a lot of like specific going to the place and cold calls sort of thing.
First thing, I offer a great opportunity for the employer, because that's what it is. It's a great opportunity for them to get involved with the program. So I do the same thing. I go into different places, I approach them. I first get really friendly and don't even talk about anything that has to do with the program, because I find that's really important. Once you grab someone's attention and they're interested and they're listening to you, then I don't lose them as fast if I just went right into talking about the program and what I'm there for. And so that way, and I find so many people have had either experience in their life with somebody with a disability, and they're very receptive to it. So that's always really beneficial for me if I've had somebody, right now Home Depot is a big employer for us. So they take a number of our students each year. Sometimes it will turn into employment, sometimes not. There's a number of Home Depots in Hamilton, so it just depends on the time of year. I also find that with this minimum wage thing, I've heard a lot of that from employers, the cutbacks and that type of thing. So yeah, I really try my best to convince the employer that this is the right way to go. So it's just a lot of talking, persuading. That's how I do it.
Just because Humber is in the Etobicoke area, Etobicoke, Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, what have you, there's a lot more opportunity to knock on doors. So I do the going in person as well as just making phone calls. And because there are a lot more opportunities to make that contact, we've had some great opportunities to have students be able to really connect with really interesting employers. So I think we talked about geography also being some of the challenges, and to hopefully we've got a lot more opportunities in that sense.
I think too, there's more information out there about our programs and how they work and the people they service, because I've found that last year I've had employers knocking on our door asking to hire graduates, and it's unfortunate because it's more in her area than mine. So I can never really, I can send out to some individuals that may be in the area, but I find that there's more interest in hiring our individuals, and they're knocking on our doors lately.
Sorry, last question, but are you guys staying for lunch? I'm just wondering if people can come up and if they have any additional questions. Oh, and there's information up here on the table, but we'll just take one more question.
Thank you. And so we're talking about the support that students get from colleges, but that obviously employers are challenged too in supporting all of their employees. So do you offer any advice to the employer when students are hired? Like ongoing support to the employer in order to support their
I I always keep a very close relationship with the employers and let them know, like, if they have any questions, concerns, issues, please let me be the first one to know, because oftentimes it's an easy fix. You know, if they're not sure if the student's understanding something, you know, they'll come to me and say, you know, I'm not sure, we keep talking about it. And sometimes that just takes me meeting with the student to be like, hey, I just heard from your employer this feedback, if the employer's not comfortable doing that, right? But I've also told an employer, you know, well, I don't know, why don't you ask him, right? So referring back to the student, but the employers always know they're not left high and dry by any means. There's a check-in, a visit, and we don't ask our employers to do a lot of additional work. There's feedback forms, as well as a general one-page evaluation for the student. So it's not like overly time-consuming, other than the hands-on work with the student, right?
I make contact with the employer on a regular basis. I also do midterm evaluation and final evaluations. We set learning goals out for the student prior to starting, and go over them with the employer, which is always really helpful, because some of the employer sees, okay, they do have some expectations for themselves, as well as we try to have like a social at the end of every year for employers, because it's really nice when they all get together and they can talk about their experience with the program. So yeah, we really try to build that relationship and keep it strong throughout the placement. And even if in the following semesters I don't have students who go into that placement, are interested in that, then I will always go in to make a visit. Sometimes I'll just bring a card in, but I just feel it's really important, right? Because they're businesses, but they're still people. So I think it's a huge thing to keep it going if you have to make that constant contact.
All right, so on behalf of Ontario Joint, I want to thank Anne-Marie and our CICE panel for coming in today to talk to you guys.